that in instance that what usually excites economic growth and local production is when ordinary people are given tax breaks, because tax breaks has a net effect of exciting local production. Thank you.
All right. Pass the microphone back. There's another one over there. Go ahead. Keep it brief.
My name is Grayson Maro. I work for Siasa Place. And as an organization, we try to encourage young people to get involved in issues of governance, especially at the county level. But when we have young people talking about issues of high cost of living, they are now getting interested in matters politics. And in 2017, we saw the voter apathy for young people was very high. And that situation might even be higher in 2022 because they'll feel, why should I vote? When I voted the previous time, things were not done the way I had wanted as a young person. My proposal is this, that we need to encourage young people across this country, and the government needs to lead in this, that in as much as they are failing in providing an environment that young people can thrive, there is still hope. And this can only be done if the government comes out clearly and talks about this issue of high cost of living. And you mentioned earlier that politicians were invited to this forum, and even the Minister of Finance, for example, and none of them didn't want to come to this forum to discuss these issues. That means that they really do not want to talk about the problems that Kenyans are facing, and now we are left on our own. My challenge, that as we move to 2022, we need to stand out and vote for leaders that are going to come and sit on a platform like this, and we hold them to account and ask them these questions, and they can answer and be responsible to us, because we are the ones who gave them this power there. Thank you.
Microphone is back here.
My name is Andrew Sikwe, and I'm a brand strategist. So I want to contribute to this, and I believe it's more of a ripple effect, considering that the rising in the cost of living contributes to disadvantaging the consumer, so that they are not able to afford, and the purchasing powers diminishes considerably. And with that now, it results in the sectors being unproductive, from the SMEs to the established businesses. And the moment different sectors are unproductive, it results to loss of jobs. And also now there's production of counterfeit, there's flooding of counterfeit products in the market, which also now directly contributes to the compromising of the quality of living. And as he had mentioned, like for example, Mzee was saying that he has to compromise on the quality of stuff he has to use to make his customers' shoes. Now, by that, assuming now, take for an example, an industry where whatever goods are being consumed are supposed to contribute to the health and well-being of the people, then it means that we are going to have increases in some of these lifestyle diseases.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead, summarize.
So I think it's more of a systemic issues.
Okay.
A systemic issue that need to be addressed, by the policymakers and people who are influencing the policies.
Okay. Pass the microphone to Teardrops. You have the mic over there. Go ahead.
Mr. Duma, I am a youth development and advocate. I do youth development and advocacy. So I'd first of all like to correct the gentleman who is the founder of Art at Work when he spoke about a deficit in thinking. I agree with you up to that point, but I disagree on the level where you are talking about lack of strategy in government, because we have Vision 2030, and Vision 2030 is broken down into 5-year plans that coincide with the political cycle, which is why we have the Big Four agenda. So it's how politics now comes into the whole, the whole mix of having leaders that hold the country's, the country's development at heart. So in terms of the cost of living, I think we need to humanize the story a bit more, yeah? Because when we talk about cost of living, we are talking about basic commodities. Can I afford bread and milk? Can I afford to eat ugali and skuma at lunchtime? Can I afford to have dinner? So all this, if you put them together, it's about 500 shillings per day. She talked about 300 shillings per day. He talked about the same amount. Can she be able to afford the meal? 3 meals in the whole day? And can he be able to afford the 3 meals and pay their bills at the end of the month? Okay. Now, speaking on providing a solution, right now what we have is a demographic dividend. We have the highest youth population right now. We are boasting over youth population. Indonesia, between 1970 to 1991, harnessed the demographic dividend to get themselves to where they are now. Where we are now as Kenya, are we harnessing the demographic dividend?
Okay. Very briefly, go ahead.
My name is Collins from Alternative Voice. Now, listening to what Steve said about, in response to what Mzee shared about his business, I see a paradox in the Kenyan rhetoric in development, or in a question of making our economy better. We are talking about giving young people loans, right? And on the other hand, there is no enabling environment for business to be done. We are talking of increasing taxes every day, to raise revenue for the government, yet we are losing millions every day in corruption, in theft and misuse. Every year, up to 1 trillion shillings. Just in 2019, cumulatively, what was lost in the central government and in county government combined, 730 billion shillings, right? So how is that sustainable? I think we are going so much, we are going round about this issue.
Okay.
The point is, our leadership has failed us. Our politicians have failed us. And it's time for us to rethink whoever we put in power. Are those people deliberate? Do they have the nation at heart? Do they share the vision of a country?
All right.
Otherwise, we'll go around the same thing and we'll have no solution.
Okay.
Right.
Teardrops. Utanipea mistari baadaye lakini kwa sasa
mi na speak on behalf of wale vijana wa mtaa huko, yani wenye saizi wako waweki, yani na feel tuko kwa society yenye tunajaribu kuavoid sana, ni kuna middleman in everything tunafanya, na ni hao ndio wana affect kila mahali. Nimeishi Huruma kwa slum plan, na feel government waga inaraniwa kama slum in one way, in this way. Kwa slum kuna kuwa na stima, kuna kuwa na maji, na kuna kuwa tuseme na hizo vibanda zenye wamamboga wanakuwa nazo. Hizo vitu si za gava. Stima ya ghetto si stima ya Kenya Power. Imagine na supply wa mtaa si ya Kenya Water. Kuna wenye wanaikata alafu wana supply kwa mtaa. Sasa hii ni stima ya nani? Stima ya Kevo, maji odis. Okay? Yani hivyo maranea maji odis, zile vibanda za nani, na hizo ni hivyo. Na ukiangalia ina wasi wote wako mtaa wanakuwa inspired na wale wenye wako huko juu. Hii wizi yote iko hapa pia iko huko juu. In one way, utapata kuna mse fulani yako na alibado fulani ya afya ya nini, ya stima ya nini, alafu inachukuliwa very lightly and nobody anaongea, si ndio? So in between hapa kuna kuwa na mtu mwenye na wa connect ule mtu ule, this ndio the middleman huko juu. Pia ile doi kibiwa au hata sasa niki pepa zao, kuna middleman in between, na anakulia sana na anaogopewa na watu wenye kwa hapa chini, na anatumika na toko pale juu. So wewe kumtoa hapa ni unajaribia huko juu, na mwenye kwa hapa chini pia ataumia. Tunaishi na hand to mouth, like mzee amesema hapa hivi. Nikiangalia tukapata middleman poa, ata connect huyu na ule, akijua na talent na gift na hizo vitu zingine zote. So unapata most of the time tunaishi kwa society, si unajua nini, hata kwa skill daje unajua nani. Unaweza kuwa kuna kila kitu, kuna papers na kila kitu, kwa qualified yani, but ukifika huko juu unapata bro ya mse fulani hapo tu wewe aweshikilia na hizo vitu hapo, kaenda na ndio maana unapata inatu affect huko. Nasikia sijui mtu wake zaliwa kuna deni ya sijui milioni ngapi ya thousands ngapi, hii hata ilipa in cash, hata ilipa in consequences. Ataamka ukienda kwa nini, ukienda kulipa daipo unapata imeongezwa na mbao. So tuseme kibai daipa kaso 2, by the time anafika 2 years inamaanisha government imekula serious. So by the time unazaliwa na by the time una dedi, hadi ukienda kuchukua baada ukienda kukufa unaambiwa death certificate ni 5,000. So huwezi penya.
hakuna
so hata ukiapa bado unalipa. So ni hivyo tu manze, na ni life.
Okay. Let's get closing remarks up here, then we'll come to teardrops for mistari za mwisho. 30 seconds from there. Yes, let's go. Steven.
Something that was raised, that has been raised
I hope
across
in
the
your
floor.
closing remarks you'll address them as well.
Yes. One, we know that the role of government is to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive, for the private sector to thrive, for the people of the country to thrive. Government is not in the business of making those jobs. What government should do is to put in place measures that will help the enterprises to grow. All these things we are talking about, if the enterprises in Kenya were growing, if Mzee there who is making the shoes, starting small, he's supported to grow and become a large companies. All the large companies in the world, that's how they started. They started small, they became big. If the enterprises that are in the informal sector, the Juakali ones, are supported to expand and become also established, then we'll not be talking about what we were saying, will be a different scenario. Part of what we'll be seeing, there will be no container leaving Kenya going to Mombasa empty. And so we'll be seeing the benefit of the SGR. We'll be seeing the benefit of this infrastructural development that we are having. We'll be seeing the benefit of all these mega projects we are having. Why? Because people have jobs. And I still say it, the only way to help this country is to have majority of the people have decent income. Let them have good jobs that is able to afford them a good income. They are able to meet their needs and all that. There is another issue that as a country we need to address. We don't have, it's not that we don't have plans, we don't have solutions. All these plans are there, the solutions are there, the policies are there, but are we implementing them? No. That's a big challenge we have in this country. Whatever we are discussing here, if you go to sessional paper number 10 of 1965, was discussed, and the plan was put there, and people thought about it, but we have not implemented. So we need also to have the courage to implement what we have. Last thing.
Yeah, very briefly.
As a country, we exist in East African community. We also exist in Africa, and there is the whole thing about integration. When we are talking about integration, we are saying we need people, countries in Africa to trade with other countries. Do we have products in Kenya that we have already lined up to trade with other countries in Africa, so that then we are going to be to have a beneficial relationship? We cannot stop the importation of goods. I mean, we cannot work in a closed economy. We will not be happy to say, let's close the economy because we want to grow ours. What do? We need to improve the quality of our products. We need to lower the cost of production, so that then our products are able to compete in the market competitively with all other products, that whether they are coming from our neighbors, whether they are coming from which place, but we can be able to compete. If that happens, what we are saying about 1.8 trillion, whatever that we are implementing, we can turn it around and say we are implementing we are importing 600 million, but exporting 1.3 trillion worth of goods. If that happens, then this country will be a different country.
Job, is that the position, very briefly as well? Because there's also someone here, he doesn't leave a name, but he says, why is imported goods cheaper than local goods? Structures.
A good question there. If you would look at our cost structure in the country, and I started by saying that we are 13.3% cost disadvantage out of the research that we have carried out. If you compare the production in the country and production that happens in the globalized nations, because there are heavy subsidies that come with the globalized nations, there are heavy incentives. Some goods are being produced in special economic zones, others in EPZs and whatnot. Economic regimes that are really helping them much than what you're getting here. And I started by lamenting by saying that look at the finance bill, like what my sister here has said. Finance bill for the last, or the Finance Act for the last 3 or 4 years, they have been very punitive for the business. So I would summarize by saying that we need to look at the cost of doing business as a country. We can even have county competitiveness indexes being developed, and even having our own index being developed to track how much are we addressing the competitiveness as a country. Because we have been talking more about the ease of doing business. But the topics or the discussion that we have had here, they are not looking at the power connection. They are not looking at the importation across border. They are not looking at these variables that or the criteria that comes with the ease of doing business. They are looking at the cost of doing business as a country. So for the Mama Boga to survive, for one who makes shoes to survive, we must be intentional about the cost of doing business as a country. The second one is we need to separate between the political governance and the economic governance, because we have lumped these together. There's a subject called the political economy, and we much revere and respect the subject, because it's a question of having politics and the division of the resources that are in the country. But if we don't separate these, ensure that the technocrats, the professionals are doing their job, and then the politics is also playing its critical role of uniting the country, will not get far. So we need to separate the two. We have seen some countries that have been facing uprising. But even when they are facing the uprising, the economic development is still going on, because there's a huge separation between the economic governance of that country and the political processes of that country.
Okay. Roy, your closing remarks. On 22422, I see you call yourself Fred Njuguna. You said the government should create job opportunities so as to elevate the living standards of its citizens, since the youth are languishing in extreme poverty. And also Isaac says the high cost of living in Kenya is the main culprit in the government and county governments not paying their suppliers and causing non-cash flow.
Exactly. I totally agree with what it is they're saying, that there needs to be a separation between the political governance and economic governance. In Kenya is where you find that majority of the major businesses are owned by people who are government officials, former government officials, by the way, and it's those people who seem to own the big businesses. And the thing is, the decisions that are then made are actually to bail out that group of people and not to SMEs. I think that should actually change. The thing is the reason why there's a growing taxation or cost of living is because, yes, Kenya Revenue Authority today comes and gives a set of taxes, and then all of a sudden the SME shrinks, or the businesses shrink, or they collapse. Then it has to still get from that group of people the same amount plus more of what. So these taxes will continue going higher, but they've not solved the fundamental issue down here, which is basically the SMEs, jobs, and those kind of things. My closing remarks would be, we basically have an opportunity to facilitate the creation of jobs. That I see. I think we've got very many talented youth. We have got people who can play football. We've got people we can now be able to export. We've been talking about diaspora remittances now surpassing those of tea and coffee. Yeah. And I believe that to increase diaspora, I think we need to start exporting people. Okay? And the thing is, I'm not saying moving people, it's like move that talent. Let that talent go out, let it be consumed by the world, let it start bringing back revenue into this particular country. Let's be sensitive to the youth, because we've got two issues that can happen here. We can either get a youth dividend or we can get a youth time bomb. All right? If you look at then again that we need to start thinking about the youth as a factor of production. But the thing is, this factor of production has already been messed up. You're talking about mental health issues, you're talking about sexual reproductive health, you're talking about radicalization and all those kind of things. Then expect this group to be productive. You need to sort out some of these issues before.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for making time. Roy Gitai, CEO at Work, Stephen Obiro, Head of Advocacy, Communications and Partnership, FKE, and Job Wanjoy, Head of Policy and Research and Advocacy at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Let's see what you're saying here on 22422. Clinton Ogweno says that actually the Kenyan economy has been affected by the fact that Kenya does more importation than exportation, yet it has the potential of production. In terms of employment in Kenya, looking for a job has become another job in Kenya today. Corruption has taken it all. You'll get to hear about connections, ghost workers, and godfathers. I think surviving in Kenya is all about self-employment. All right, we have another one here. You don't leave a name or where you're texting from, but you say the government needs to stop imports like furniture. Kenya's carpenters have no jobs and government is just watching. Let them buy Kenya and employ Kenyans. Teardrops. Yes. The floor is yours. I hear you guys in the creative industry, you say that tukiangusha mistari za maana, we do what?
Mnafanya hiyo design.
Adu clap.
Tumesema macarpenters tuna import furniture na macarpenters wanatupisha mbao. Anyway. Si signs za Banana Republic ziwanza na mwananchi kutoona difference ya askari wakipiga muuza ndizi na mob justice wakivamia mwizi. Squeezy wizi in broad daylight na kila mtu wako easy. Vijana hawana makazi, uta expect to mind their own business. Let's not pretend kama kila mtu wako busy. Kama wazi afford escort for breakfast, jua tole mse mwenye pika kangumu pia maisha yake si rahisi. Awazi afford escort for breakfast, na ule leader mwenye ulilekta libandika poster za campaign na kitumia ngano, worst case study wana kutumia kama mfano, ndio maana crime rates hazipungui kwa hizi streets za Mfangano. Future with the BT unaibiwa na SMS ni proof enough kukuambia that genius minds iko behind committee. Joseph brother yetu na Joseph baba yesu na Mariamu vitafauti. Wenye wanaoja bitterness ya nchi ni wenye nauza sweetie, duka za makeup zimejaa tao, but CBD vitu bado haziko free. Tuko kwa society yenye student kuna less chances za kuvaa white collar, za kupata white collar jobs after kugraduate, na bouncer kuna high chances za kuvaa suit before graduate. So kawa ni mama, encourage mtoto wako kule mbuku na ile kupursue his dream ama kule fit na hit the gym. Usiwetegemea jasho ya mtu not unless unafanya kazi ya kuuza cologne.
Brilliant, and that's how we leave it. Thank you so much for watching the Monday Report Town Hall session. We appreciate all your feedback. That's all the time we had. Again, let's do this again next week. My name is Trevor Bija. Always a pleasure. Special thanks to my panelists and special thanks to all of you for making time and sharing your views as well. Let's do this again next week. Good night for now.